Yes, 1944. The radio greats of that day? Well, close your eyes and remember this person.
This is London. Late this afternoon, I flew to France with a marauder group to bomb one of those platforms from which the Germans have been launching pilotless planes against southern England.
The engines are being revved up now.
And then we were rolling.
The air is just a little bit rough up here, but it's very warm and comfortable. Bright sun beating in through the first deck. Well, I think it's time now to go back and put on the flak suits and the 10 helmets. But just before we stop this part of the broadcasting, I am tempted to ask whether or not any of you sitting at home listening to this have bought some war bonds today.
WJNO's news policies then, as now, were to bring you the facts quickly.
This broadcast is now coming to you direct from the Weather Bureau office in Miami, Florida. We will give you the hurricane bulletin as of 12:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The center of the small hurricane is apparently located over the Everglades west of Miami at 12:30 a.m.
And even after the hurricane, WJNO was still on the job, as emphasized here.
This is a flight over the east end of Palm Beach County, the west edge of Palm Beach County, for the purpose of bringing you an eyewitness account of the present water conditions throughout this area. This flight and the recording of this broadcast has a threefold purpose. First of all, to inform the public of actual conditions. Secondly, the Civil Air Patrol is using this flight and the material gains of this flight as a check on flight conditions and airport conditions in the West Palm Beach area at the present time. The third purpose of this broadcast and flight is to have an actual, tangible piece of evidence in the way of recordings made right now under existing conditions so that local groups such as the Resources Development Board can use these recordings before government bodies in the future to further emphasize the need for water control not only in Palm Beach County but throughout Peninsula Florida.
The year is now 1945. The war had posed problems for everyone. Even we at WJNO had our share. Our tower was right in the middle of the landing area for Morrison Field. What was then Morrison Field, what is now the Palm Beach International Airport. Consequently, it had to be moved.
WJNO, this is the War Department. You've got to move your radio tower within 45 days.
That was a sharp voice on the telephone that darted out of the blue, and it sounded tough. But the next day, the voice turned out to belong to a mild old Chattanooga gentleman who was striving to do his best to aid in the immediate development and enlargement of Morrison Field. Naturally, WJNO was as interested in the development and progress to be made by Morrison Field as anyone in the community. It meant immediate advantages to the West Palm Beach area and permanent resources, the value of which no one could ultimately estimate. Then followed many weeks of conferences, plans, and preparations. In those weeks, WJNO gained a great respect for the organization and the ability of the War Department. It knew that America's war was being run in the right way by the right men. And the War Department and War Department representatives knew they were dealing with a truly American organization. For after all, the majority of WJNO's board of directors were in the armed services. One in Cairo, one in Normandy, another in active duty in the Navy. So, negotiations were fast, no quibbling. All had a common objective. Here was WJNO's task, to move a complete radio station a distance of some 4 miles, rebuilding it without using critical materials, and yet continue to broadcast while this job was being done. To accomplish the task, it called for true community cooperation. On Saturday night, November 25th, 1944, WJNO's news contained this story.
Tonight is the last night that WJNO will broadcast from its Okeechobee Road site. At sign-off time after midnight, that's when the real work begins. By 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, when WJNO comes on the air again, it will be necessary to move essential equipment in order to have the radio station in operation from its emergency transmitter located at the Detura Street steam plant. That's a simple statement of fact, but it covers 1,001 details, 1,001 engineering problems, and 1,001 hours. It also proves 1,001 friends. Here's an example. In order to save the War Department money and to help in the war effort, the Florida Power and Light Company made no charge whatever for the use of its building and the facilities in its Detura Street steam plant. The Florida Public Utilities, that we all call the gas company, contributed its cooperation to the government and WJNO. Here's another sideline. WJNO's temporary studio equipment, amplifiers, mixing consoles, and other units of complicated radio equipment was built out of miscellaneous and used parts by our chief engineer then, Otis C. Wright. As equipment had not been procurable since the war, no critical materials could be used. Some wire and solder was all he needed, plus his know-how, which is the result of years of experience. Then on January 9th, exactly 45 days after November 26th, WJNO News had this story. Approval was received today from the Federal Communications Commission for the use of WJNO's newly installed transmission equipment located at its new site at 1500 North Flagler Drive. Since November 26th, WJNO has been broadcasting through its emergency transmitter in temporary studios and offices. Effective tomorrow morning, the newly installed equipment will go into use and broadcast transmissions will start for the first time from the North Flagler Drive site.
And then on Friday, February 23rd, 1945, WJNO was rededicated to the community. We had a number of special guests that evening. P.P. DeBoyer, the president of the Resources Development Board, felt
the Palm Beach County Resources Development Board wishes station WJNO continued success in their new studio location.
George McCampbell, mayor of West Palm Beach, said,
I'm sure that I speak for everyone in the city of West Palm Beach when I say that we're proud to have a station of WJNO's caliber in our city.
Stanley Peeler, vice mayor of West Palm Beach, was present.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a real inspiration to be here this evening and witness the magic of radio and the magic of Florida so perfectly combined in this beautiful setting on the shores of Lake Worth and West Palm Beach.
W.H. Hitt, president pro tem of West Palm Beach, thought,
my friend Steve Willis and WJNO have always done a swell job, and now with the new facilities, they will be able to do even more for the communities they serve.
Vincent Oaksmith, the commissioner of West Palm Beach, spoke.
The citizens of West Palm Beach should be very grateful to WJNO for the very important part they are playing in the civic life and commercial life of this community.
E.F. Stump, the secretary of the West Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce, was here.
This station means much to our city, and at this time I want to express my appreciation not only as a city official, but as a private citizen for the fine spirit of cooperation WJNO has always given in connection with every movement that has been for the best interests of our community.
Lake Lytle, a member of the County Commission, wished as well.
On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, I wish to compliment this fine organization for this beautiful station. It certainly is a wonderful improvement in addition to our fair city.
On D-Day 1945, WJNO was there.
This is Godfrey Talbot speaking for all radio networks. I've just come back from a flight over that southern French coast and a score of miles into and over southern France. All in the first hour or two of our invasion, and we in our aircraft haven't had a single shot fired at it. Of any of the hundreds of aircraft of Troop Carrier Command which I was accompanying. This is Winston Burdett in Rome. The invasion of southern France has begun. Strong forces of American troops began landing on the southern shores of France at 8 o'clock this morning under cover of a tremendous air and naval bombardment.
Germany has surrendered unconditionally. American, British, and Soviet representatives have accepted the surrender of the German armed forces at General Eisenhower's headquarters near Reims in France.
It's VE Day, and how do you feel?
Well, I feel glad in a way, of course, but you know I feel like praying too. Do you mind?
Why, no, of course not.
Dear God, thank you for the victory you have given us in the war. Thank you for giving our armies and our generals the strength and wisdom to carry good to the hearts of Europe, to wipe out evil there, and to keep the Nazis far from our own shores. And now, O God, give our sons courage to do the same job again in the Pacific.
This is London. His Majesty King George VI.
3 months have passed since I asked you to join with me in an act of thanksgiving for the defeat of Germany. We then rejoiced that peace had returned to Europe. But we knew that a strong and relentless enemy still remained to be conquered in Asia. Japan has surrendered.
This is Columbia's News Headquarters in New York. Our last great enemy is defeated. The Second World War is at an end. Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.